तिथे चांगला आवाज येतोय. रेकॉर्डिंग दिसतंय ना चालू? हा दिसतंय ना? ओके.
The world come together to be more efficient, reduce cost, and become more and more closer as a global community.
The new specializations in the field of project management.
I would like to say thanks to this wonderful and exciting program and greet you all happy anniversary. I'm looking forward to much easier access to knowledge sharing, networking, and overall professional development. What I'm looking forward to is to meet new friends and look new ways to serve our members and give back to community. From Indonesia, I would like to wish a chapter exchange program a happy anniversary. Looking forward to connectivity in this virtual world. Happy anniversary.
But I'm looking for a little more of the real world, a little more of real interactions, a little more of real networking.
Is that the chapter member take advantage of what the exchange offers so that they remain relevant and produce business results in their space. Happy anniversary. A world full of more collaboration, more
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on from where you have joined in. Hello, everyone. My name is Priya Patra, and I am the Vice President Outreach of PMI Mumbai Chapter. And I am the host for this session today. I also have Pierre Axel, who is our second anchor chapter from South Africa. Pierre, would you want to say hi to everyone?
Everyone, welcome.
Welcome. Yes, and the next person who I would like to introduce is Brushank and Flavios, as well as Candida as my co-host. Candida, would you want to say hi to everyone? All right, so let's move on to Flavios. Flavios, can you say hi to everyone?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today for this anniversary event. Look forward to a wonderful program.
Thank you, Flavios. And over to you, Prashant, to introduce yourself and take this forward.
Hello, I am Brushank and I volunteer as Vice President Professional Development with PMI Gujarat India chapter. Today we have our PMI friends joining in from different PMI chapters: Indonesia, Gujarat, Zimbabwe, New Zealand chapter, Phoenix chapter, Czech Republic chapter, South Africa, Netherlands, Sri Lanka, PMI South Florida chapter, United Kingdom chapter, and Lima, Peru chapter. Our newest addition in this is PMI Sao Paulo and Southern Alberta chapter. Our supporting chapters are PMI Kenya, PMI Ghana, and PMI Greece chapters. As you know, we are celebrating our first anniversary this month. So we can see the balloons going up. Okay, so please say hello to each other and continue networking while we get started. Today we are excited to announce we have registration from 43 countries, about 700 plus registrations. I see people joining in. We have members from
I am losing you, Prashant. Is that?
now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so please add the Mentipool link here.
Yes, we'll do that. I've already done. Go ahead.
Good. Yeah. So this is recorded. If you are uncomfortable in this, you may not, as you are most welcome to continue. Please make your noisy devices on silent mode, and please note that everyone here in this meeting speaking on their individual capacity, or we do not represent our organization in any ways. With this, I hand over to Scott to introduce the guest speaker of the episode.
Yeah, so Prashank, we had a little bandwidth issue there, but we could make it out. Yes, so let us join our hands together for Michael DePrisco. Mike needs no introduction. As you all know, he is the Chief Operating Officer of Project Management Institute. And what intrigues me or what interests me is that he leads a global team with focus on digital product delivery and management, both very close to my heart, digital transformation and a diverse team. So with this, Mike, I will hand over the session to you and let us move on for a fireside chat. For that, I will have to stop sharing so that we can, kind of see you well.
Okay.
Just a moment, give me 1 second. Let me stop sharing. Yeah, there is. All right. So, Mike, thank you for your time today. And we are so excited and so happy to have you here as part of our anniversary celebration. So, Mike, I was reading an article, I would say a publication from PMI, which said tomorrow's teams today. And it also talked about how teams have become remote, diverse, transiting across geographical boundaries, and what skills that we would require as project managers to make our teams future fit, which means we will have to become a little more culturally agile and intelligent. Now, my question to you is, Mike, since I got you, obviously I'll ask many questions. How can organizations like PMI help us to improve our cultural agility and the cultural IQ of project managers?
Well, thank you for the question, Priya, and thank you for having me. It's very excited to be here. I love getting out and talking to chapters, and I must say I want to congratulate you and the leaders that put this event together. It's so important now more than ever that we try to find ways to stay connected globally. And this is certainly a standout program that's doing that. So congratulations on your anniversary. May it be the first of many. So to answer your question, and it's a great question, and I think it's a very relevant topic today as well. But a couple thoughts I have around cultural agility and cultural IQ of project managers. And I think there's 2 or 3 things I want to focus on. One is certainly the chapter community is a major enabler of helping individual project professionals improve their cultural agility and cultural IQ. An event like this, I think, is a prime example where you're bringing together people representing different parts of the world, different industries, different sectors, different backgrounds and experiences, and you're engaging them in conversation around very salient topics, topics that we're all dealing with in our own personal way. So I think this is certainly a great example of that, and would encourage others to take advantage of these types of opportunities. The second thing that I would like to point out is that many of you know with PMI, we do a lot of work on thought leadership and research. In fact, we're known for a lot of the great research that we do on the profession. And just this past year, in our Pulse of the Profession series, we did an in-depth survey on diversity and teams. And certainly that's a great resource that I would encourage individuals to check out on our website, pmi.org, to learn more about what we found in our research. But a couple things I just want to highlight for you because I think it's important. We know, for example, that organizations that invest in diversity and inclusion see better project outcomes. That's a big takeaway from that research. And in fact, 63% of high-performing organizations offer some type of gender-based programming. And again, they're more likely to be high-performing in terms of project outcomes. We've also seen in that research that culturally diverse leadership is associated with higher organization performance as well. Really the best part of this survey was 73% of the respondents said they believe their organization will make diversity a greater priority over the decade. So if you're looking for some proof points that you can bring back to your organization and have conversations with your colleagues or leaders about the importance of building your organization's cultural agility, cultural IQ, I would encourage you to take these types of resources from PMI and leverage them.
Are you talking on mute? Yes, sure. That's a very good resource that you have pointed us to. Mike, this April, I was in the virtual LIM, and I came to know that the talent triangle is evolving, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that is a natural thing. It has to evolve. I was wondering if there is a cultural diversity aspect also that we are considering in the talent triangle. How will this new talent triangle be aligned? That's something that I was curious to know.
Yeah. I think it's a great question, and glad to hear you were at the April LIM. We had over 1,400 people attend that event and got really good feedback. But yes, I did speak a little bit about the talent triangle and the fact that it needs to evolve and change to better reflect what skills and capabilities are needed in today's workforce. So that's why we're aiming to do that. But I think that diversity and inclusion and cultural dimensions around the talent triangle, I think, are embedded within all aspects of the triangle, certainly in terms of new ways of working and maintaining business acumen. There are cultural dimensions that are important to ensure you have a global outlook around how work is getting done in different parts of the world, how teams come together and work together effectively, There's cultural dynamics at play. And I think that that's a capability that is embedded, I think, within the talent triangle. 88% of project professionals tell us that diverse project teams increases value. So when you're forming your team, you should be looking at the composition of that team, not only from a skill and capabilities perspective, but also from the perspective of diverse experiences and perspectives that can help inform the team. Certainly, we see, I think, the cultural dimension most prevalent in our power skills in the side of the triangle that focuses on power skills. These are the skills that are, focused around interpersonal relationship, communication, influence, creativity, collaboration. All of those skills require people to effectively work together with one another. And that requires a cultural sensitivity as we increasingly work across cultures and regions throughout the world. So there isn't, the way that I like to look at it, there isn't a side of the triangle that's cultural diversity per se. I think it's embedded in all of those aspects and elements of the triangle.
Yeah, and Mike, I like the fact that you call them as power skills, not soft skills. And definitely, I just remember one incident, right? I was going for an interview for a project manager, and I was talking about how I made proudly speaking about how I led one project to success, the team building, and focusing on communication and collaboration, etc. And I was told by the interviewer, "What is this? You're just talking about soft skills." And since then, I put that soft skill at the end of my CV. But come the pandemic, it has gone up on to highlight my strengths. So that's good that we are renaming our soft skills to power skills, and definitely those are our superpowers as project managers.
For sure.
So good that that transition has happened. Another question that comes to my mind is about the values of PMI, right? And I truly value the values of PMI, like professionalism, volunteerism, and of course, diversity, inclusion, and equity is also part of it. Community and engagement, right? It is, PMI is a volunteer-based organization, and get volunteers to be engaged is a big thing. Tell us something about how we can, as leaders, as project managers, imbibe these values of PMI, so that that can help us to build a diverse and a cultural team, multicultural team.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, and I think so much has changed in the world and at PMI over the years, but I think the one thing that hasn't changed is our core values. They endure, and you call them out very well there. But I'll also add another one around impact. And everything that I think the chapters do, in particular in their communities, the face of PMI is around making an impact in your community, in your workplaces, in your professional and personal lives. And certainly volunteering for PMI is a way that you can have impact. In fact, a couple of good examples. PMI's adopted an initiative in connection with the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals to call upon our global community to join us in achieving a goal of 100,000 hours of service by the end of 2021. This actually started in 2019 with our 50-year anniversary. We put this challenge out to the chapters, and they more than doubled the goals. So we thought we would do it again. And so we're calling on everyone to help us achieve this goal of 100,000 hours of service. So that's certainly a way that you can support building diversity, multicultural teams, and so forth. I think many of your peers are doing some great things. In Washington, D.C., one of the biggest chapters in PMI, they continue to give back to their communities in a variety of ways, local food banks, local job fairs, and so forth. The Jamaica chapters created a partnership with a local nonprofit called HOPE to drive efforts around youth development. And there's many, many other examples. So we would actually love to hear about what you and your chapter is doing. And, you could go to social media and post hashtag PMI Impact and share with the PMI community the things that you're doing to give back to the community, as well as to advance the goals around diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Sure. Thanks, Mike, for that. I'm also thinking, do we have some resources like, which can assess what I know? You know why? Because I have been working for North America clients all my life. And I thought I knew the culture very well, and I was culturally intelligent, and I can manage, any culture. But when my organization was, acquired by a French company, I came to know that, well, there is lots to learn. So is there any tool or some assessment kit, I would say, which would guide us as project managers to understand what we know, what we don't know about cultures, and, kind of help us to drive projects in a multicultural setup?
Yes, no, great question. I think that, I spoke a little bit earlier about our thought leadership, and I called out specifically the Pulse of the Profession report on diversity in teams. But we also publish a really powerful document. It's called our Megatrends report. And it is available, again, on our website, pmi.org, which really tackles the biggest challenges that the world's facing globally, and how project professionals are responding and how they can respond. And what are the different factors that need to be considered, whether it's diversity, equity, and inclusion, whether it's technical skills, whether it's business acumen and other types of capabilities that need to be brought to the table to help the world tackle these problems. That's a good resource. And there's some good use cases in there to reference. I also think projectmanagement.com is a really good resource, because it's a global community of project professionals that come to that site. I think inherent in that is a diverse range of voices, perspectives, tips and tricks and techniques that have been used from people doing the job. No better learning than from people that are doing it. So that would be a really good resource for individuals. And then we just recently, a couple months ago, on pmi.org, our main page, we created a PMI blog, and we feature a number of experts and thought leaders on that blog that talks about a variety of topics, including diversity, equity, inclusion, to help practitioners learn about those important salient topics.
Sure. For PMI's strategy, like, I know that there is a global body, and then we have our chapters, right? It's like a hub and a spoke model, maybe. How does PMI's such chapter level strategy facilitate intercultural collaboration across chapters and regions?
Well, I think that, yes, what you described there, that hub and spoke, I think was something that we've been doing for a long time. But recently, within the past 2 years, with Sunil Prashara joining as the CEO, one of his primary objectives was to really make PMI more global. We're a global organization, we always were, but we lacked some of the local presence that was needed to truly understand what are the challenges that are unique to our stakeholders in each region of the world. So we stood up a new region operating model where we set up regions in 8 regions throughout the world that are all led by a managing director for that region, and he or she has a team of individuals that support that region. All of those individuals live in the region, so they are very close to our stakeholders to understand what the challenges are and to be more responsive, quite frankly, to the needs that come out. We're learning a great deal from our region, our regional members and credential holders as a result of putting this model in place, and we're able to respond more quickly. Also, as you know, within the chapter community, there's region mentors. These are senior volunteers that represent chapters from a regional perspective, and they're able to bring to our teams important issues that chapters are dealing with, and that's really been an effective program, as well as our chapter insight team. But we are seeing great collaboration across the chapters. This is a great example of that collaboration. We've also seen it in regions like Africa, where they're partnering with the Tony Illuminou Foundation, which focuses on empowering young entrepreneurs across the region with project skills through a number of virtual events and things like that. I know in Sao Paulo, the PMI chapter there developed a year-long program to provide mentoring and guidance to students around project management skills. So there's a number of things that we're doing to collaborate. The Education Foundation is something that we've we've had in place for 30 years, and those folks work very closely with our chapters as well in delivering valuable programs in their communities.
Sure. And I'm seeing a lot of tools and processes also coming in place to, kind of share good practices within the chapters, like the CCP platform. We are also leveraging it for building communities within the chapters, right? Sharing best practices, some of our insight nuggets, right? What we are talking right now in the panel discussion, we, kind of publish it as a form of a document, and we upload it there so the other chapters can also look at it and learn from it. So that even that CCP platform is a great, way to improve collaboration.
And that CCP is version 1. We're going to continue to refine and improve it, but think of that CCP as version 1.
So we are looking forward to the next version. So Mike, one last question. Your words of wisdom for the youth in this area.
Youth. I mean, I think for youth, it's an interesting time. I mean, they're certainly living through the pandemic, and that has created a number of challenges, but also opportunities. And I think it's going to shape their view and perspective on the world of work, for the next 50 years. So it'll be really interesting to see how that evolves. But I think that as it relates to youth and what they can really do to stay connected, to learn, to grow in this environment is, one, get connected within virtual distributed teams as much as possible, right? So we know face-to-face will slowly be coming back to norm over the next year or so. But in the meantime, there's many opportunities. In fact, you can argue more opportunities now to get connected to individuals that are dealing with the same issues, like-minded, through virtual events like this and others. So I think that's a great way. I would really focus on developing that business acumen, understanding how companies and organizations work and what they really care about, and then how you as a project professional can contribute to that organization's ultimate aspiration. I think having that business acumen, being able to demonstrate to a leader that you get it, that you understand how you fit into the big picture, I think is critically important. And then the last thing I would say is for anyone that's younger and coming up, early in their career and so forth. Things like the chapter are great ways to get connected, to stay connected, to learn, to network. Even if it's in a virtual environment, it still is a very good investment in helping individuals, develop the knowledge, the terminology, the language of, the profession. So that's some of the suggestions or ideas that I would say.
Awesome. So thank you very much, Mike, for
Yeah.
your time today. Good words of wisdom. I will take this forward to the youth project managers that we are mentoring for the PMI Mumbai chapter as well. And thank you for joining us for our special anniversary celebration.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Virtual
Thank you.
applause for Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with this, we will move on to the next part of our event, which will be, I'm handing it over to Pierre for the same. Yes, Pierre. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen. Here we go. So hi everyone again. This is Pierre from PMI South Africa. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about the Chapter Exchange program. So as you know, today is our 1-year anniversary. That means that the program was started in April 2020 by PMI Mumbai, and then it went to PMI Czech Republic and then PMI South Africa. So those 3 chapters are the anchor chapters of the program. And today we are working in collaboration with 18 chapters. So these chapters, I'm just going to give you the names. We're working with PMI Zimbabwe, PMI South Florida, Netherlands, Gujarat, Colombo, Southern Alberta, Lima, New Zealand, United Kingdom, Phoenix, Indonesia, Ghana, Kenya, Greece, and Sao Paulo. So this program was obviously started during the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's been a way for us to keep working. And today we are trying to leverage on virtual collaboration. So basically, PMI Exchange Chapter Exchange program is all about virtual collaboration. And what we do is we host 1 event per month. So it's an online event, usually a panel discussion like this one, or sometimes a book club. And today we also have launched an Insight Exchange series, whereby we gather all the information from our sessions and we make them available for you. So without taking any longer, I'm going to give the floor to Monica. Monica, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Pierre.
Okay. All right. So over to you now.
Monica, we lost you. Monica?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, Priya. Okay.
Go ahead. So Monica is our president of PMI Sao Paulo chapter, Brazil. I would request Monica to say a few words about the chapter and the program.
Hi, I'm Monica Mancini. I'm very proud to be the first female president of the largest chapter in Latin America. We have more than 2,200 members, 153 volunteers, and 11 branches. I've been a volunteer for 11 years. I started as a project manager in memberships. Later, I was elected director of programs in events for 2 years. Then I was elected twice as a member of the Governance Council. I was just elected president of PMI São Paulo for a 2-year term. It's also an honor to have a female management team with 1 vice president, 5 governance members, 6 directors, and 2 branch coordinators. Our executive board consists of 4 members, the president and the 3 vice presidents. You have a governance council and the operations council and the fiscal council. Our goal is to show the market that PMI São Paulo is agile and the project management institution. Our pillars are digital transformation, innovation, and agility. In digital transformation, we will rethink our internal process to become more agile. In innovation, you need to be different. We will reinvent ourselves in offering our products and services. In agility, we want to deliver value to our members and society with focus on the project economy. To achieve all these challenges, we have a fantastic team of 11 directors which are responsible for volunteers, memberships, events, professional development, branches, innovation, business intelligence, marketing, PMO, technology, partnerships, and sponsorships. We hold several virtual events for members, such as happy hours, double shots, talks with directors and associates, PMI São Paulo Talks, Elcome Talks. You also have a new international project management seminar of 2 or 3 days. Our value proposition is to offer professional training, events, mentoring, preparations, social actions, networking, employability, innovation hub, hackathons, and podcasts to serve change makers and the project managers. PMI São Paulo is being prepared for the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Monica. And now over to Candida. Please introduce yourself, and the floor is all yours.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much. My name is Candida Tachi. I'm with the PMI Southern Alberta chapter here in Canada. We're in Calgary, Alberta. We're a big, vibrant chapter. We've got over 2,000 members, and we are probably, I think, the 4th largest within Canada and the second within our region. So we really do our programs out in the forefront. We have embraced this virtual environment, and we really contribute, and we provide so much, and we work so hard to provide that value that our members are expecting from us. So we do get into our agile. We became an ATP provider, and we really celebrate our volunteers. We have now over 100 and so volunteers. It's actually Volunteer Week here in Canada, so we're doing quite a bit of celebrations. We really do participate and embrace this whole project management world.
Thank you, Candida. And we can hear you loud and clear, so that you know this. And with this, Candida, would you take the floor away for moderating the panel discussion that we are so eagerly looking forward to?
Fantastic. Yes. So what Priya was alluding to, that you can hear me, we're at the mercy of technology, and, behind the scenes, we were just fluttering everywhere to get me on live, and here we are. So what a great way to start off, or a segue to start off what we're really going to bring our panelists together to share their ideas, share their experiences. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panelists. We have first up, we have Paulo, that is a global P3 VRM, and I'm learning so much. So right away, we know that we have an amazing cast of panels here. So it's part of that portfolio, the program, project value, and risk management practitioner. And he has 38 years of experience, direct or indirect, related to this P3 VRM. And I love letters because it really does embrace that wholesome and that whole portfolio that we know where the experiences come from. And he has extensive academic activities in the same field, and he's an active member of PMI since 1998. So welcome for both. Next panelist is Dr. Natasha Winker-Titus. She is current president of the Society of Organizational Psychology in South Africa. She's the founder of Signify, and I'm sorry if I've mispronounced that. I will get more information from her when she comes on. A management consulting brand and senior lecturer in leadership and organizational behavior at the Stellenbosch University Business School. She's been working for over 25 years in the multicultural context of South Africa. Natasha has guided organizations through change and culture transformation nationally and internationally. So Nasha frequently shares her experience and insight on PMI platforms such as this. Welcome, Natasha. Next up is Ivan, and he is a global citizen born in Ukraine. He studied in the US and 6 UN countries, worked on 4 continents and helped on projects in 19 or more countries, and now he's in Prague, Czech Republic. He's had 16 years in the IT-related PM roles. He's been a PMI member since June of 2020. So thank you. Like you're new, and hope you're having a great experience with PMI. And his hobbies is he's a yoga enthusiast and a marathon runner, and he really enjoys his hobbies. And finally, but not least, we've got Thanjagat, and he leads strategy and operations at Walmart Global Tech India. And he also is pursuing his executive PhD from the Indian School of Business. So he's got his experience is spanning in 3 decades. So very, very, well nurtured here. He volunteered with the 13th Indian scientific expedition to Antarctica and wintered over. So he was there for 16 months at the Indian permanent station of Mayatree.
Yes.
I'm getting a really good lesson on all these words, and I feel like I'm already around the world. So this is fantastic, and he is known for being a well-known speaker. He is also an author. He's published Agile Product Development in 2015. So without further ado, welcome everyone. I know I have not done you justice in introducing you. There's just so much more to you, and I hope that that's what we're going to get out from you as we continue on with our panel discussions. Okay. Awesome. So everybody, if you do have questions, please put them in the chat. We have some questions here. So I think I'd like to start with Farpod. One of the questions that we have here posed is, which project management area are mostly influenced by international teams? So is it the communication? Is it negotiation? What are your thoughts on that? Sorry, I don't know if you heard, this question was directed to Farhad.
Your pronunciation got me. I thought that is somebody else. Sorry. Normally I teach people to pronounce my name. My name is Farhad, like Bond, James Bond. So if you got that, it will be easier. Sorry, I didn't think that you were talking about me. The most important thing is that all around the world we do business, so negotiation and communication is indeed a part of what we do on a day-to-day business. But what international context poses as a challenge, in my opinion, is rather the governance and the power relationship between inter and intra organizations. So the game of power is one of the challenges that is different from one country to the other one, or from one region of the world to other region. So I think that's one of the things that I would emphasize. Back to you.
Great, thank you. That's so true. That is very true. And thank you for correcting me. This is part of this cultural, right? Is really ensuring that we have the patience to make sure that, yes, it's very important that we get it right, but having the patience to do that. All right. So Natasha, you're up next. We have a really good question for you here. Collaboration is a multicultural teams is a complex and multifaceted endeavor. One tip that works, can you identify one tip that works for you and how it does work?
Thanks, Candida, for that question. So I love the idea, the notion of collaboration. I teach on collaboration, and I have a program called Virtual Collaboration, where psychology and technology meets. And the reason I came up with that program is, and especially, in South Africa, our virtual workers or remote work phenomena was probably around 4% pre-pandemic. And then obviously when everybody went into lockdown and were forced to work from home, it shot up to 40%. So now we're waiting eagerly to see how that's going to land out. So what we saw during the pandemic, with everybody suddenly jumping onto technology and having to get used to these type of platforms and having to get used to working and collaborating and building teams and engaging all via technology, there was a big focus on the technology. So the skills to do it, the capacity, the access to it. In South Africa, we've got two big issues: Wi-Fi, aka data, and electricity. So you may have data, but the power is off. So there was such focus on the technology side, but what we often lacked was the psychological engagement. How do I build connection when I can't see you? When we also a culture of huggers. We love hugging. We hug everybody, and I can't hug you. So I do find, firstly, when you have to collaborate, maybe one big clue that I would say is, remember, I always say there's the heart and the soft, and they love to talk about psychology as the soft, although I think it's a very hard science. It's very complicated, but always keep in mind the heart and the soft of it, the psychology and the technology, across cultures. And probably around cultures, the one thing I want to say is we should not make assumptions. So just because somebody's from India doesn't mean they're very humble and they're going to be quiet. We should be careful of stereotypes because of cultural phenomena.
Wonderful. Boy, you've touched on so many things that is so me. That's probably one of the biggest things I miss is that hugging and that just really face to face. But collaboration is so important, and I think that's what's really bringing the world together. So thank you for that. I'm loving it. All right, Ivan, you're next here. How do you come out of cultural differences while there are other obvious challenges, such as communications and different beliefs and values that people hold?
All right, hello. But to me, it's just trials and errors, just learning by doing. And I specifically examples is just learn for these opportunities. Go meet the people of different cultures, so go interact. And volunteering is part of what was mentioned already. I will just give a short story from my personal learning. When I studied in the United States, I shared an image of the yogi practicing a very difficult position, so it could look quite challenging. Well, that actually led me to the international office when they were investigating why did I was sweating, or because I share it with my Brazilian black friend, yeah, and there was an investigation like if I was threatening him or if I was like, was there
Oh,
any
wow.
he was in danger. So and that clicked me because I've never was thinking that something from my perspective is fun. From another perspective, it could be, you know, even threatening thing. So I just learned it again that I have to focus on whom do I speak to, what is the audience, who's the audience, what is the message, what do I try to say, and yes, and how do I package, how do I deliver it? So it's also, you know, if it's a nicely, if it's a friendly manner, if there's anything. So it's trying to look at the thing from perspective of the other person. This is the way that always keeping in mind when I communicate, you know, with other cultures, other nations, etc.
Love it. Yeah, very, very true how we perceive and see things, right? Tathagat, you're next. What is cultural agility? How important is it in building cross-cultural teams?
Sure, Candida. I think that's a great question. Uh, I think cultural agility is a very big subject by itself, so I don't want to attempt to even kind of put it together in one line. But to me, it is essentially the ability to understand, compare, and contrast, and discern the cultural nuances that might be there between me and other partners of mine. And I carefully use the word discerning instead of judging it. We human beings have a tendency of judging somebody who's not like us as most often inferior to us, because we always tend to have that sense of pride that our culture is the best. So I think to me, cultural agility is really the ability to park my judgment behind, and that's why the usage of the term discerning, and then being able to respectfully understand, because to me, culture is really the operating system of a society. The culture is something that is immunity system, because if it has evolved over a period of thousands of years, there is a reason why it has stayed like that, because it has actually protected the community and the society from external changes there. So we have to understand, and then be able to approach it with a lot of curiosity, with any kind of without any kind of bias, as a ethnographer, as an anthropologist, rather than as a judge. So to me, that is the ability to really absorb the nuances of that and be able to work with them without really either culturally appropriating something or without really demeaning somebody whom I'm working with. So being able to maintain those respectful relations is how I would look at the whole thing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I have one question that I'm going to throw out to all of you to answer is, can you share a short story about unexpected cultural differences?
I could
Any
go first because
I'm
I
happy
was
to go.
okay. I could go first because I was just completing it. So
Yeah.
I will tell one, and this is something that I used to work a lot with the Dutch, and I was working at Philips those days, and I used to go to Netherlands almost every month. And I remember there was a time when we were enjoying a birthday party that evening, and we were having a lot of fun, and we were having really nice dinner and drinks and everything else. So it went on well, right? Everything was fine. The next day morning, there was a meeting at 10 o'clock, and there was some other reason because of which I got delayed, and I was not able to reach the office on time because there was another employee who was reaching. I had to give the key to the apartment. So long story. And then I found that my peer, my counterpart, was the same person with whom we had been partying the last evening. And he was very upset actually that I was late to the meeting, to the office. So because whatever credits I had from the last evening's socialization did not materialize enough into being able to offset the price of coming late there. There was a very clean separation between the work and the life. Whereas for me as an Indian, the work and the life boundaries are very blurred, and we often tend to have credits being taken from the work into the life and from the life into the work. So that was very one unexpected situation I thought I'll share there.
That's great. Wonderful. Would
May I
like-
jump?
I'm happy to go because I actually want to pick up on something that Tagat mentioned earlier before he shared that lovely story with us. But he alluded to our idea that we always think we're superior. My culture is the right and my identity. And I thought we had a little bit of a joke during the warm-up session and when we got to know each other, and I was positioned as representing Africa, and I thought, wow, that is quite a big ask, because if you've ever been to Africa, you would realize what a big and diverse continent it is and what amazing cultural nuances and diversity we have in Africa. But I am here today, I'm representing. So I thought I wanted to share with you a little anecdote. There's an oft saying that oftentimes is attributed to Desmond Tutu or Jomo Kenyatta and others. And it goes something like this. They say, when the missionaries came to Africa, they had a Bible and we had the land. And they said, let us pray. And we all closed our eyes. And when we opened our eyes, we had the Bibles and they had the land. So representing Africa today, I want to open with that statement. Much of the African history has been told through the eyes of colonizers who, through their own self-interest and lack of cultural understanding, have produced a one-sided or biased account of what Africa is about. Interaction with the rest of the world, however, isn't new. And we know, if you know your history, that different parts of the continent of Africa has been trading with the Mediterranean, the East, as well as the Arab world from as early as the 7th century. It has developed cities and kingdoms from as early as the 10th century. So as an opening position, I just want to share that working in multinational organizations, and oftentimes I would manage South African teams, but also global teams. And what I often find working across the borders is that countries, especially from the global north, as we position it, have preconceived notions or ideas. And then they come to these countries with their preconceived ideas, and they're not really open to real engagement or to be locally relevant. They think the only way to build healthy relationships, and what I would say is that you first have to understand your own biases, your own paradigm, your own view, and then with humility and empathy, you have to get to know the other side. So maybe just a funny story that I can share on cultural differences. So one of the projects that I managed, I was based in South Africa, but I had a team in Brazil because it was quite a sophisticated project. I was working with well-educated team members, all working for Accenture, management consultants. And I really struggled. I just made assumptions that we all speak English, they are well educated, so it won't be a problem. And for the first few weeks of the project, it was the days before video conference, so we would have teleconferences, but the communication was so horrible. We just couldn't understand each other, which led to a lot of other assumptions, like they don't know what they're doing. I have no idea what they're doing there. And eventually we decided I need to go out there because I need to build relationship. And the few days that I was in Brazil, we spent more time, obviously being Brazilian, going out at night, dancing together, getting to know each other. When I came back, we never, ever, ever had communication problems again, even though they spoke with exactly the same accent. So one of the things that I can say is relationship is extremely important across cultures.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There were so many valid points. And I think a lot of us were going, oh yes, I remember that. I've gone through that, when you're talking with teams, and the world's becoming multicultural. So you don't have to be in a country like, Canada. We're just all multicultural and diverse. Thank you. Who would like to?
May I jump in?
Yes, please.
This is Farhad. May I jump in?
Yes, please.
I would like to compliment the first panelist who was talking about separating, the business time and social time. I had something very similar when I was managing a SAP project in Venezuela, and I will talk about two aspects in that project. One is that during the day they were very tough with us. We had a supplier client situation, and they were very tough. In the evening, we went out and we had fun. We had beers and everything else. The next day, they criticized us, and they, so it was a very different situation. And Brazilians normally they have the same attitude as as our colleague said. We are the same people all the time. So we didn't understand this situation, and it was very, very interesting. Another thing was that I went there first for a short assignment of 5 days. I should have been training on one of the modules of SAP and come back. So I went there with a luggage of 1 week to stay for only a week. In the middle, I was promoted to project manager of that site, so I had to stay. And I said, well, how I'm going to do that? There is a problem because they speak Spanish and we speak Portuguese. So I said, look, I don't have time to learn Spanish, to speak correctly the Spanish. So I will speak slowly, very slowly Portuguese to you guys, and you respond in Spanish. If we don't understand each other, we switch to English. Because the company was DuPont, which was an affiliate of DuPont of United States. So they spoke English very, very fluently. And of course, we did as well. So I said, I don't have time to create communication problems. So I won't try to speak Spanish. I speak Portuguese, you speak Spanish. If we don't understand each other, we just switch to English and it's done. I stayed there for 1.5 months, and the project was a success. The project on live. And if I had tried to deviate my attention to learn a new language and manage an SAP project at the very end of it, it would have been a total disaster. So that's one of the experiences that I wanted to share with you.
I love it. That's fantastic. And you probably didn't want to come back. You did come back though. Great. Ivan.
To Venezuela several times. But afterwards, I spoke fluently Spanish because I did some classes, and then I did my PhD in Argentina. So, I mean, in a way, Venezuela was a good thing that happened in my life.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yes, thank you, Candida. For me, if I would share, again, the personal learning and things is as starting to be exposed to international study, as start to do the first international work. So more and more now in time, there is more international team, and it's all getting integrated. So I don't think any other way, in fact, other than that. And discovery at the beginning and the way it's really based on humanity and on trust and on the personal connection. And there is always something different, something unexpected happens. So, I mean, one of the example I had back in student time again, the flatmate, and from Bulgaria, and who could I was thinking that by body language, for me this is yes, and for them was no, and then for her for me this is no, and for her it's yeah. So I mean, just by that thing, learning So be honest and expect the unexpected. Just go for it. That's for me.
Yeah. Yep. I totally agree with that and stuff. You know, there's a lot of different culture, you know, mannerisms and that you know may mean one thing in one culture and different in another, right? What's, you know, respect in one culture may be kind of rude in another culture. So it's really understanding that. Great. Well, since I have you on, I've got one question for everybody else, and then we'll open it up because I'm sure there's questions out there that we want to make sure we capture. So, Ivan, as project managers, then, how do we leverage the benefits of these cultural differences and, you know, instead of letting them affect us?
Sure. So now that I experiencing the time when it's fact that all the team is just expected to be from some sort of another, that will be either culture or the person from minorities, so there's still differences. Well, I see it from the positive perspective that it's always a plus. I mean, of course, there is a challenge is how do you connect and integrate, and how do you manage, I mean, how do we get it together? So I think that you have to have a goal as the first thing, and then how. And how is a team that includes, you know, international people, variances. So this is first what, second how, and then, but in terms of getting a win, there's always a win, because if you have so many, so the more diversity you have included in people themselves who think and while doing the work, while incorporating it in their product or service they produce, then the output is de facto has it in its DNA, meaning there's more chance that there's a wider audience will have better use of it. So you will service better the customers, the company, so what you produce because it has in the DNA this multi-diversity.
Right, right. Good. Natasha,
I think I just want to follow up with Ivan as well. First of all, and sorry, I'm big on this, so I'll probably repeat it. I hate stereotypes and biases. So just because somebody is Brazilian, don't just assume they love little bikinis. You know, so be very careful to just make assumptions. Invest in getting to know your team, getting to know the individual and their strengths. But if you do have that type of diversity, so the beautiful example, if you do have an Indian that loves relationship, then leverage that. If you're an introvert and you don't like socializing, get the one person in your team to go schmooze the client or build relationship with the client and find out things for us that will help us in our project. So use them in stakeholder engagement. If you have a Swiss person that is very on time and, you know, precise, and use them for quality assurance. But I'm now making assumptions about cultural heritage and strengths of people. But yeah, that's the one way. But I won't just assume it from culture. I would understand the individual and the strengths, and then maybe also just from what Ivan said now, the one thing I fully support that with diversity comes opportunity, more ideas, improved work, all of those things. But I just want to leave a caveat as well, is that diversity must come with inclusivity. Because the other side of diversity is that you could have conflicting ideas when there's pressure, because we've got such diverse ways of doing things that we can actually work counterproductive. And when there's diversity, but people don't feel part of the team, or they don't feel included, or they can't be their authentic self, they are not going to be the best versions of themselves. So that's just something we must keep in mind with diversity as well.
Great point. Great point. We do have a question for you. So let me start again. What do you think we need to consider prior to starting collaboration with multicultural teams? I know you touched a little bit on it, but maybe if you can kind of put it all together. I know that you're really enthusiastic about collaboration. So what are your thoughts on that?
So there's always two sides when you think about teams or any work situation. We as human beings need two things. We need clarity and we need relation. Relation is getting well with your teammates, feeling that you belong, understanding why am I here, how can I be myself, and all that. That's the relational aspect. Clarity has to do with what is my purpose, what's the point of being here. So irrespective of the diversity of culture, your team members need to have those two things. So you need to create the opportunities, and I'm sorry to say it, and I'm one of the worst project managers in this regard, but you do have to invest the time up front to build that team, to build the relation, to make sure people know each other, they understand each other. At the same time, while you're doing the project charter, while you're mapping the project, while you're planning, because it's all good and well, we get on well, but we don't really know what we're doing and who's accountable for what and where the interdependencies are and those things, because if that's not clear, the conflict will start very quickly. So yeah, and I'm probably moving away from culture now, but for me, that's just a basic innate human thing. So irrespective where your team, and so when you talk about collaboration, and then if we take it to the virtual space, and then if we add multicultures, multinationalities, you've got all those additional factors, you've got time zones to consider, you've got personal circumstances to consider, you've got the dynamic of technology where it's, as I said, it's not as easy to build the team and go out for drinks together and get to know each other. So you have to find creative ways. So those are the pointers I would make around that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. How is a multicultural team different than a virtual multicultural team? So, Farhan, maybe we'll get that to you.
The difference between virtual and let's say co-located teams stays the same. If you have diversity of nationalities and culture and ethnics, you may still have this cultural problem to solve. But then you have the additional instrument, which is the interface, the internet engine that you're using, that can exacerbate a little bit the situation, because then maybe you're not looking at the person, you're just listening to him, so the body language will not be present to compensate a little bit the other aspects. So if you are in a virtual situation, I would say that the cultural differences may be a little bit amplified. But in both cases, you have the same issue to deal with.
Exactly. Great. Okay. Tathagat, I'm going to give you the last question before we open it up to questions that are in the chat. Can you remember a success story where multicultural collaboration solved critical issues? I love this question.
Sure. So in fact, I want to talk something about Antarctica, since I did spend some time there. Antarctica, as we all know, is one of the most difficult places on Earth. And when you go there, you cannot come back for 1 year. So as a project manager, if you have to think of it, even though you might have opportunities to get more resources or get more funding, none of this can work because you are stuck there for 1 year and you have to wait for the ship to come back and take you. So we had one situation where we had a inspection team that was coming. It was an international inspection team. They come there all the time. And then you have to make sure that you are obviously keeping the station clean, because you cannot pollute the environment. Now that team itself was of multiple countries, And then we had a Russian station nearby, and we had a German station nearby. The Germans had stopped wintering over at that time, but we had the Russians there nearby. And even within the Indian team, it is not that we all Indians came from a single stream. There were people from army, there were people from navy, there were meteorologists, there were doctors. I was communication scientist. So the whole thing was that we had to come together as a team, and we had to bridge the gaps between our understanding of what it is and really align ourselves to the common goal. And once we were able to really come together for the common purpose and say, hey, this is what is really important. We are here not for my own individual thing, but this is a team requirement there. We were able to do it much better there, because almost every single thing had to be done there as a multicultural environment, and every expedition team had to collaborate with each other there. So that was a great example of what I can think, where that is not just a necessity, but that is like you cannot survive without that, actually.
Great. Thank you. So Priya, I guess I'll turn it to you to see if there's any questions from our guests
Yes.
or our panel.
There are many. If you could look into the WhatsApp chat, Candida, you can take them from there. Is it possible, or do you want me to read it aloud?
If you've got one, I'm on 2 devices, and
Yeah, I will
if
do that.
everyone.
Just hold on. I will. Yeah, the first question is how to manage a diverse team in a project, and what are the important parameters to keep in mind while managing a diverse team. I think we partially answered this question, but if you want to take it, I will hand it over to you, Candida.
Okay.
How do you manage a diverse team in a project? And what are the important parameters should we keep in mind while managing such a team?
So anyone from our panel, if you want to take, who wants to take
I'll
that?
take the first stab at it. I do think we've kind of added a few details as we were talking. But again, for me, as a project lead, the first thing to do is understand what diversity you have. So the opening speaker really beautifully articulated there's diversity of skills. So there are people with different strengths, different knowledge, different background and experience. So understand that diversity. You have people with less experience, people with more experience. There's diversity in terms of style and personality. Some people are very task orientated. They just want to get on with the job. Some people are relationship orientated. They want to build the team and have fun and feel that they're growing in that way. So you have to understand the types of diversity, and then you have to hold in the strengths of those diversities. As I said, if I know who the task orientated people are, I'll try and make sure I don't bore them with all the relationship stuff. Like at the beginning of the meeting, we check in. Is everybody how was your weekend? What you do, which is important for relationship people, but task people are like, geez, you're wasting my time. We need to get on with it. So you give them the assignment to do that, to welcome everybody or open the agenda. So that's the first thing. Understand what do you have, what is diversity in your team, and then play to the strengths. So again, if somebody is very detail orientated and focused, give them the accountability of quality assurance or auditing the reports or things like that. Play into their strengths instead of worrying how different we are.
Right. So that's very beautifully answered. Leverage on the strengths that you see within your team, and that is applicable even for not even for teams who are not culturally diverse. So very well said, Natasha. There is one question which I really like and which is very apt here is, what about team members becoming contractors, gigs, right? And where the projects are small. And how do you plug in such teams and cultures together and kind of lead the team to success? So TV, do you want to answer that question?
Sure, Priya. I've had the opportunity to work with contractors, and this is not something new, even 20 years back. And what I found is generally the freelancers or the gig workers are professionals. I mean, we are not dealing with amateurs. These are the people who live and die by their reputation. And we often say that your last project is really your reputation card, actually. Because if you make a mistake and you don't deliver the right thing, your reputation in the town is lost. So I have seen. In fact, I remember there was one project manager. I used to work from multicultural teams from Belgium, Netherlands, Ireland, Mountain View, US, and Bangalore. It was like in Philips. We had multiple, and it was a very complex embedded software development we were doing. And the overall project manager was a contractor to Philips. He had 20 years of experience, and he was actually much more on top of things than many of us because we were newcomers to Philips at that time. So it didn't make a difference that he was a contractor. What mattered was that he was a thorough professional in managing things there. So I would really not go with the challenge there, but I would really look at the fact that are they people who really understand their game and are they playing it well?
Sure. Yeah, and yeah, go ahead. You want to add something? Anyone else?
Well, I could add, in terms of communication, if you just address the element of freelancers, then meaning there is some period that there is a start and end, and that the project may continue. So here, what works is always a documentation. Again, like there is no thing that you can under communicate, but you take notes. I mean, I take notes sometimes what I think that no one will need or read them, but then the situation change. And I mean, again, someone left, someone replaced, and there is a contract. So continuity of keeping information documentation works well. And also just send it again and again and again and again. So meaning if someone new, they can always learn something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
really like that event. That really hits home a lot of things. So yeah, no, that's really good. I think I only see one more question in the chat. I think I see, what is or are, in your opinion, the biggest challenges when implementing project management frameworks in globally diverse, dispersed teams? So do you see some best practices with that? Who wants to take that?
I can take a shot at it. I can share one experience actually to illustrate the point. And I would not say that it is a framework problem. I think it's a mindset problem more than anything else. And I will give an example to illustrate that. When I lived in China for a year, I found that the Chinese engineers in my team were extremely sharp. They were really good. But the challenge was because they didn't speak English, and hence they were very silent in the meetings. Typically, we Indians were very noisy in the meetings to the extent of really asking a lot of questions. And I've worked with the Americans for the last 15 years as well. And typically being communicative is seen as a sign of participative and engaged and committed. And on the other hand, people who are silent or introvert are normally seen as those who are not plugged into the thing. But I think that we could be making a terrible mistake when working with people from other languages. Like even for us as Indians, English is not a native language. It's a second language for all of us. But since we have been, thanks to the British, we have been born and brought up on English. But with the Chinese, the challenge was they would sit there and I would speak and they would not be able to respond to that. But they would go back and use a software to translate and get back to us. So if I'm willing to change my mental models, that the only reason why an individual is not participating is because of language, I think I can really go a long way rather than typing somebody and saying that this person is not committed to the project.
So, Candida, there is one question from Anjum, and she says that. Yeah, so she says that, what's your opinion about conflict management and culture, or atmosphere where employee can easily disagree with the supervisor or management?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, is this encouraged? So, Ivan, would you want to take a shot at that?
For me, short, and hopefully give the space to others as well. For me, it's like if you learn the project management, storming, norming, forming, performing, the conflict is a normal thing. you cannot avoid it. So I would rather have it sooner than the later, but I will also be open and say, explain the rules, to tell everyone honestly, I mean, this is where we are, this is what we want. I mean, I don't know, the Chinese culture, I mean, working with the French, for example, for them, conflict is, it seems, or maybe a more expressive culture, or Italian, Spanish, it seems to be normal, you know, just go and try and speak non-stop. And again, you have other cultures, I don't know, maybe Nordic countries in Europe, yeah, when they're maybe more quieter, but they still have things to share. And yeah, so I mean, okay, I learned the teacher of the preparation for the PMI, he said, take pain early, take pain often as a principle. So, I mean, that goes to conflict. Do it again and again, and the sooner you discover the problem, the better you will be later on.
Yeah. So
I just want to support what Evan is saying, that I agree with that. What I find as well with my teams is sometimes, you know, that getting to know, you know, in the beginning it's honeymoon phase and everybody just gets on well and enjoy each other, that you actually stir. Like sometimes I will just throw in just to create a bit of chaos. Because like Ivan said, the sooner we storm, the sooner things, you know, in our paradigm will come out and we get to know each other better and we understand each other. What I often find is, and again, I think here the cultures do play a role. Like I just said, in a Chinese population is often more quiet. They don't like confrontation. Whereas, you know, in American culture, it's normal. We have to debate, you know, it's healthy, it's good. So their cultures can play a role. So it's very important for the project lead to understand that. Then when it becomes bigger teams that have to work for longer periods, you really need to get to the personalities, because there are people, you know, their paradigm, their background makes them feel conflict is bad. They have a negative connotation. So even if you have a healthy debate, which you're supposed to have in project environments, because that's how you create, you should debate, you should challenge each other. But if somebody's background and paradigm has given a negative connotation to confrontation, they're going to avoid it. So if you don't know that, it's always going to feel like they're backing off and the other person is bullying. But the sooner we understand that and we can let that come out, we will find a better way to make sure we engage everybody without making you feel uncomfortable.
Sure. So, Candida, we are out of time. It's time to wrap up. If anyone has any last thoughts. So, Farhad, would you know, what's your words of wisdom to project managers like us dealing with multicultural teams?
In the program that I'm currently the PMO of the program, we have other three PMOs also. In the building, there are around 140 people from 14 different nationalities. So it is a rather diverse situation, and we have been treating this multicultural aspect as a positive point. The diversity is enriching. We learn from each other, and we also have to respect the differences that we have. So I think that it's both a challenge and an opportunity. Back to you.
Yeah, off to Natasha now. Any words of wisdom before we wrap up?
I think, again, just in conclusion for me, and I see there was a question around virtuality and travel bans. And I think, yes, I do think we need to make peace with it. It's not just the travel, you know, travel can open up, and we were talking yesterday, the vaccines is the other issue, because now you're going to need a vaccination certificate to be allowed to travel, and different countries are in different states around their vaccination programs and things like that. So we are going to have to embrace and also, encourage the virtual collaboration. And there are ways through technology. We know face-to-face is still the preferred, but technology has also enabled us. I mean, look at today, the diversity, the different time zones we can accommodate. So I think we have to learn to embrace technology and virtuality. There's so much benefit to it. And I have also found that you can build relationships and you can get good delivery, even in a virtual team.
Sure. Candida, are you still there?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Perfect.
I lost you in the middle. Yeah.
You did? Okay. Anybody else with any last words?
I can just share 30-second answer to that. So there was a question like, how do we deal with the situation in a virtual environment? For me, first of all, COVID will go away. Let's be optimistic about it. It's not going to be here forever. We hopefully will get onto the planes and talk to each other once again. One thing I have learned across all the cultures is that there is nothing better than building the bridges with people by sitting across the table and having a meal with them. Once you break the bread with somebody, they cannot be impolite to you. So I think that the mutual respect and understanding goes up 100 times. And of course, some cultures which may be more permissive towards even having a drink together, you might want to consider, but not everybody may be open to that idea. But at least everybody is open to eating together. So I think that's a great way. Some people might say virtually, I cannot do it. Well, try it out. Even on a video call, you can still have the meals together. The only thing might be you might be having dinner and the other person might be having breakfast. But I think it does have a lot of power in really connecting people with each other. So do go ahead and try that and do let me know how it works for you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. So many amazing nuggets to take away as we learn to really be this global collaborative world that we're in. And you're so right. The pandemic will go away. Now we hope that we keep the right things with us. So thank you, everybody. And thank you to the team that worked hard to put this all together. Thank you.
So thank you, Candida, for moderating this session so well. And thank you, panelists and everyone who has attended this session today. If you want to be part of such interesting discussions, don't forget to be your local chapter membership. Kindly connect with your local chapters and see how you can get involved with the local chapters. For all chapter leaders who are present in this session, I request you to post the contact to your membership portfolios where people can reach out to be members of these chapters. I will post the membership details for PMI Mumbai chapter. With this, I will hand over to Flabios to wrap up this session and kind of, encourage people to take the feedback and so on. So Flabios, President of PMI Zimbabwe chapter.
Dear Priya, is it possible to put everybody on the screen so that we can take a picture?
We will do that at the end. Flabios, can you please move, take this forward?
Yes. Once again, thank you very much to all the contributors that we had today. There were a lot of gems that we got from the session, this anniversary session that we had, and it was quite rightly themed. Continents, cultures, countries, imagine 43 countries represented here. And indeed, we learned a lot from starting with Mike himself, giving us the insight that PMI in itself is enabling this cultural agility or cultural IQ. Its core value, one of the core values being about diversity, equity, and inclusion. That was a good way to start our discussions today. And the panelists, thank you so much, Farad, Natasha, Tatagat, Ivan. Some of the points that I got there, Farad showed that this, the issue of the game of power that it differs from one culture to another. That's something very, very interesting there. And also Natasha shows that, you know, we are focusing many of the times on technology, you know, but what about the human aspect? What about the psychological engagement? And of course, when we're dealing with issues of culture, no assumptions, no stereotypes, no bias. We should put that behind. Taragat also did a good job actually of defining what is cultural agility. I mean, in short, it's just about putting your judgment behind. Just put it behind. Learn. Culture is the operating system of society. That's the way that he put it there. Very, very interesting. And also, thank you for those experiences. I was enjoying all those experiences which you shared with us. You know, different situations, sometimes things that you don't expect happen. And to wrap it up, Ivan said, expect the unexpected. That's the key about culture. Expect the unexpected. So yes, what did we learn today? We have to learn to understand. We have to adapt. We have to be agile. Thank you so much with a wonderful program, and we certainly look forward to another session next week. So we've got a fun retro board. We ask you please to take part. Want to have your feedback, you can scan the QR code. It should be coming on the screen. The QR code, which you can actually scan or use the link. Provide us your feedback. What topics would you like to hear discussed here in the future? And last but not least, we would like to thank the crew behind the scenes, with the likes of Sachin, Sunil, Arif, Damike, all playing different roles to make sure that we have this great session. And of course, don't forget to claim your PDU. I think the code will also be posted, which you can use, get your PDU. Wonderful. We unfortunately have to come to an end, but this has been very insightful.
Yeah. And if everyone can put on their videos, we will take a picture now. And Pierre will do the honor. He is our official photographer of all our virtual events. So, yeah. Monica and Sachin and Sunil as well. Yeah, Monica, I can see you. Sachin, Sunil. Unfortunately, I've had to leave early, so we don't have him yet anymore. Okay. All right. So if we are done, thank you very much for attending the session. This was a very, very enlightening session for me as well. And I learned so many, so many wonderful stories, cultural stories. Yeah. Sachin, Sunil is there. Pierre, you will have to take a picture once more. And thank you everyone for being so supportive. And I think we had more than 325 attendees today on this call. So that's a good turnout. We will have the recording of this session posted on our PMI Mumbai chapter YouTube channel, and the link will be shared to everyone. PDU code, you will get an email with the PDU code to claim your PDUs as well. And panelist, moderator of the session, Candida, and Monica, and everyone, thank you for making this event such a wonderful success. And with this, we sign off now, and we will catch up again next month with another interesting topic, which I guess you have already provided in the feedback link. So Flavios, thank you. Everyone, thank you. And
thank you, everyone. Thank you, Candida.
Amazing.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Merci, au revoir.
Great job, everyone. Fantastic.
Thanks.
Beijo para Mônica.
Vai falar.
Fantastic. Thank you to the
ब्रांच आपण असं